Do you have a big European trip planned? Well, you might want to stop what you're doing and pay attention because there are some big changes going on starting now, and you don't want to be caught by surprise. It is called the EES, and I will tell you everything you need to know. Now, as you probably know by now, Paul and I travel full-time in retirement, and we have been to Europe many times in the past, and we certainly will go many times in the future, including we have this awesome around the world trip coming up very, very soon. And we will be going into and out of the EU and the Schengen countries multiple times. So trust me when I tell you, I have done a deep dive onto what this new EES entry-exit system for the EU means to those of us traveling there. So today I am talking all about the European Union's EES entry-exit system, who it affects, what you need to know. It isn't just about stamping your passport anymore when you go in and out of those countries. So how bad is it going to be? Or how good? Well, let's talk about it. It rolls out like now. Officially, October 12th, 2025. Like I said, Paul and I are planning this huge trip, and we are starting our trip in November. So it's super important for us to understand the nuances, what's new, what's different, what is the same. Now, it is a complete digital overhaul of the existing passport system in the Schengen countries and the EU. Now, I'm not going to go into great detail on the difference between the EU and the Schengen countries, but what I will say is this system is an EU, European Union system. It will affect all of the Schengen countries. It will not affect your travel to the UK because, of course, they're not in the EU anymore. But I highly advise you actually figure out if whatever country you're going to is, in fact, in the Schengen countries or part of the EU. So that way you can be sure if the country you're traveling to will be implementing this new EES system. Now, I want to be clear, this is not the ETIAS system that really has made the news over the last several years. They are different, they are distinct, but I will touch on the ETIAS system a little bit later in this video so you understand the differences and whether they both apply to you. Okay, to explain the system a little bit better, again, it's the entry-exit system that the EU is now implementing starting October 12th. And think of it as an electronic border system. It no longer is just stamping your passport. And I know that's kind of a bummer because you're not going to get stamps in your passport anymore. But what it is doing is they're implementing it in order to more easily track the 90-day out of 180-day allotment that non-EU citizens must adhere to. So I'm sure if you're traveling to the EU, you know what that's all about. This is an easier way, a more efficient way for the EU to track your comings and goings within and out of the EU and Schengen area. So basically think of it as a biometric tracking system. I know that sounds kind of creepy, but let's face it, that is the way the world is now. So who does it affect? It affects non-EU citizens that are going into the Schengen zone. That is a compilation of 29 countries, I believe, all EU plus the handful that I mentioned earlier. So if you're a non-EU citizen, then you will need to pay attention to this. You will be subjected to this new system. So when will it start and how does it actually work? Like I said multiple times, it is slated to start October 12th, 2025. At this point, even though it's been pushed back a number of times, I do think it will actually officially start. It will be rolled out over a 6-month period across those Schengen countries. The majority of them will implement it starting October 12th, but they do have 6 months to roll it out. Now, in addition to that, some of those countries will still continue to stamp your passport, where others will not. I don't know which ones will. They do have that subject to their own approval. And if the system is really bogging down their border system, for the first 6 months, they have a right to roll it back and go back to the old stamping the passport system. So you really don't quite know what you're getting yet, but after 6 months, it will be fully implemented and they will all be doing it. So how does it work? Well, the first thing that's worth noting, there is no additional fee for this, so don't worry about that. It is about collecting your biometric data. So when you enter the first time after this starts, You will be fingerprinted. I know that sounds really kind of creepy, but don't worry. It is electronic. It's not a big deal. And they will scan your image as well as scanning your passport. So that is how they're going to collect all the data on you. And then as you come and go within the Schengen zone, they will be able to keep track of you far more easily. Important to note that children 12 and under will not have to be fingerprinted, but they will have to get their face scanned and their passport scanned. Now, the first time you do it will take the longest amount of time because of the fingerprinting and all that goes along with that. But in future visits, they will only have to scan your face, maybe your passport, but it will be much, much faster. It's kind of like for those of you who cruise, you know, we do a ton of cruising. When they implemented this facial recognition to get off of a cruise ship, now it's just facial recognition, and it is so much faster getting off cruise ships. So hopefully over time, this will speed up the crossing the border situation in Europe. And also worth noting, it is good for 3 years. So the first time you do it, you'll get your fingerprints, your face scanned, your passport scanned. Then that's good for 3 years. Then in 3 years, you'll have to do that process all over again. So what do you need to do to prepare? I think the most important thing is to be prepared for longer wait times as they roll out this process. It is like any new electronic process. Sometimes there are glitches and sometimes things get shut down. So you could be in for some long wait times. Hopefully I'm wrong. Maybe it'll just like speed right through right from the beginning. I will certainly let you know because we will be going through that in about 6 weeks. So be prepared for some longer wait times. Again, over time, it's going to be much, much faster. The other thing, very important, is just like before, you need to make sure that you have a passport that is valid for 3 months from the date you plan on leaving the Schengen area. So not from the time you get in, but from the time you will be leaving. And your passport has to have been issued within the previous 10 years. Now, one other note is I am assuming it does not matter how many blank pages you have left in your passport. As you guys probably all know, currently, when you are checking in and out of the countries, you have to have either 2 blank pages or 3 or 4, depending on the country. To me, it makes sense that that's not going to matter anymore, although I haven't read that anywhere and I haven't gotten confirmation, but it does stand to reason. The other piece of advice is if you have not booked your flight yet, you might want to make sure you pad in some extra time if you have a connecting flight within the Schengen area that then is going to go outside of it. Again, I'm just not sure what the wait times are going to be, but I think it is safe to pad in some extra time. So if you haven't booked your tickets, I highly recommend giving yourself a pretty long layover before you have to either get on a train outside the Schengen area or another airplane. But I'm really hoping that from the get-go, it speeds things up. It certainly will over time. Now, I did say to you, I was going to touch on the ETIAS system versus the EES system. These are 2 different systems. They both have to do with European travel. Think of them this way. The EES, the one I'm talking about in this video, is really about border entry exit control. The ETIAS is about getting permission to go to those countries. Now, that has not been rolled out yet, so I am not going to go into detail on that. But it applies to the same group of people. And what that's going to be is you're going to have to get pre-approval electronically before you go to the countries. It's like getting permission. There will be a fee associated with that. It does keep going up. Originally, they said it would be €7. Now it's up to 20. So who knows by the time it rolls out. This system, the ETIAS system, will not roll out until the EES system is fully functional. So when it comes out or when it's about to come out, I will certainly do another video on that for sure. And honestly, that's about all you need to know. Again, this isn't hugely complicated, but it is a very different procedure. And if you're not prepared, it could take you by surprise that you're getting fingerprinted and face recognition. But that's just the way it's going to be. And moving forward, it really is going to speed things up. So again, have a valid passport that is good for at least 3 months after you plan on leaving the area. Expect to get fingerprinted face recognition and have your passport scanned. Make sure that you pad your time or at least expect some additional time at the borders, at least for the time being when it's rolling out. And then just know after that, it's going to be a lot easier and it'll be good for 3 years. So hopefully now you're more prepared. You won't be so surprised when you get there and that's what you see. Like I said, Paul and I do travel full time and we have this huge around the world flight coming up. We're super excited. If you are interested in retirement travel, I do invite you to subscribe and also hit that notification bell, and that way you'll be alerted when all of our new content comes out. And I am curious, what do you all think of this new system? Is it kind of creepy and invasive, or do you think it's great and it's going to speed things up? I would love to know your comments on that, so put them down below. And thank you for joining me on the Freedom Strategy, where we are unlocking retirement by exploring the world. And we will see you next time.